Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh God, I can hear that now too. My voice has been saved. Good morning. I'm sorry for speaking in English. My Dutch is very, very sketchy. So I will save you from that. My name is Tom Bennett, and I founded researchED 5, 6 years ago in the UK. And since then, it has blossomed beyond my control into many, many other countries. It's an honour, an absolute honour to have you join us here. Can you please put your hand up if you've been to a researchED event before? I love you. You are my people. Thank you. Can you put your hand up if you have not been to an event before? Where have you been? We've been doing this for years. Why wouldn't you give up your Saturday? After a long week at work, what should we do now? I've been on Twitter all day. I'll go to a conference and talk about education throughout Christmas. So thank you very much for coming. I hope nobody was made to be here. You know? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I get that sometimes schools send people. Say, you must go, become evidence literate. Thanks. So, I assume that people who come here, it's a very special audience, and always flatter your audience. You're very special and good looking, I might add to it. You really are the best looking people in Europe. Apart from the UK. But, yeah. Oh, we're in Europe. We'll always be in Europe. It's everything else that's up in the air now. So you won't see me again, because this will be the last time I will be allowed to be in the Netherlands. And next year we'll have our own problems anyway. We'll be fighting over the last tin of beans that's available before we retire to caves and rediscover fire. But that's okay, because we'll have taken back control from you wicked, wicked members of the EU. Thank God for that. I am remain forever. Very good. Beg your pardon. Anyway, thank you. Let's see what happens then. So, sorry, researchED, I should talk about that. For those of you that haven't been here before, I'm guessing you know roughly what it's about, otherwise you're just lost. You don't know what to do on a Saturday. The dream was to try to help the teaching profession and everyone involved in teaching to become more evidence literate. For teaching to become more evidence informed. I say evidence informed, maybe not even evidence based. It's very hard to necessarily base something with certainty in education. Few things in human interactions in the world of people are certain, but we're not looking for certainties, we're looking for best bets and most likelies and highly probables. And so people frequently say to me, why do teachers need to become more evidence informed? Why do teachers need research? And I say to them, because of Goya. That's it, that's all I say. I just say, because of Goya, and walk away. Because of Goya's famous etching, The Sleep of Reason. I don't know if you have seen this one. The sleep of reason produces monsters. And I think sometimes that's what we find in education. When teachers, particularly, who wish to be professionals, teachers are always saying, we are a profession. And I've been teaching for 14 years in the UK. I'm not sure we're a profession. We're nearly a profession. But we don't have an agreed body of shared knowledge or a shared understanding of what it means to know something in education or not know something in education. And I think that's a shame. And I think we can do better, both for ourselves and for our children. I think that far too often we rely on 19th century philosophy and half-baked ideas cooked up in a lab somewhere, normally supported by somebody trying to sell you something. In education, education is the only field in which anybody can say anything and somebody will say, well, that sounds like a good idea. We should do that. Let's get some money behind that. And we know time after time after time that the only results of this are children's lives crushed between the wheels of our own ignorance. So I think we all deserve better. I think there are best bets out there. I think there are highly probables. I think there are most likelies. I think there is an emerging conversation in education which is fascinating and wonderful to be a part of, which you are part of here today. This conversation where teachers and academics and researchers and policymakers and budget holders are talking to one another. And the one simple question which catalyzes this whole conversation, which makes this community, is how do you know? That's the question we should always ask in education. How do you know? What's your evidence for this claim? Why should we do this? You want me to mark my books 5 times a week? Okay. Why? What's the evidence base for this policy, for this strategy, for this classroom intervention? That's all. And I'm not saying we've got the answers for everything. Coming to these events is not about getting the definitive answer. We're not here to give you the answers. We don't know the future. But I know it starts here. It starts today, with conversations like these. And if there was one impassioned plea I would love to make throughout the world, because we've now taken research around the world, we've seen a lot of systems, and most countries have got the same problems. I assure you, there's no country which has solved this. My impassioned plea would be this, that when we train teachers in particular, as far as humanly possible, we train them to be evidence literate and evidence informed. This doesn't mean that teachers have to become researchers, but it means that how they are trained needs to be as evidence informed as possible, which means challenging our own biases, challenging our own assumptions, challenging what we were taught in the infancy of our own careers, and asking ourselves, how do I know that? And for most of us, that's a very, very hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to challenge one's own biases, myself included. It's very easy to cling to things and truths, half-truths, which are comfortable, which make us feel comforted. I take it as a given that everyone in this room cares about children. Everybody cares about children. The question is, are we doing the right thing for them? Caring is not enough. You can care and still do the wrong things. You still do things which don't help children. I mean, I constantly talk about things like brain gem and BAK. These dragons that I hope we killed off years ago, but they're not dead. And these are just some of the worst examples. I still see people coming through initial teacher training internationally. And I'll say to them, what's the best way to teach? And they'll say, oh, children must learn in groups all the time. Or they must discover things for themselves all the time. And so we see children falling further and further behind when these techniques are not appropriate. Sometimes they are appropriate, I might add. As I say, there are no definitive truths and proofs in education. But there's context. We often say within researchED that we're trying to work out what works. I don't mean what works for everybody all the time. I mean when things work, when they don't work, with whom, and in what circumstances. Context is very important. Becoming evidence literate is not simple or easy, which is why nobody can do it for themselves, which is why we need a community of an emerging profession, talking not just nationally now, but internationally, with teachers and educators and academics from around the world, to try and propel us, not just into the 21st century, but into the 20th century. People often talk about 21st century learning. We're not even at the 20th century yet. We are still at the stage of bloodletting and for humorous, and so on. We must never forget, and I know that sometimes we over-compare teaching to the medical profession, we must never forget that in medicine, doctors resisted the call to wash their hands. Doctors said, I don't need to wash my hands. I'm a gentleman. My hands are obviously clean, and obviously it was gentlemen, not women in those days. They resisted science because they felt it was somehow a disrespect to their authority. And we don't need arguments from authority anymore. We need as much evidence as possible, married to the craft and experience of what we find out in the classroom. And where craft intersects with our evidence basis, that piece in the middle is probably, for me, the most exciting and interesting part of where we should be going in education, and that's very much what today is about. Visit as many sessions as you can, build your own day, see people you're interested and not interested in. Surprise yourself. We have got a full timetable. We have got a lot of people here today. It's a wonderful day. I hope you find out at least 3 things you didn't know before. Ask questions. Grab speakers before they scurry out of the room. Force them to talk to you. Demand! No, don't demand, please. All the speakers today have given their time for free. It's a wonderful thing. I've rarely seen such a kind profession as the education profession. People so voluntarily, readily give up their time and their resources and their experience to help one another. I think it's a lovely thing. I think it's lovely that you're here today, and I'm very grateful that you're here today. Don't forget, if you are on Twitter, is anyone here on Twitter? Oh God, how do you find the time? I'm such a hypocrite. I'm always on Twitter. I'm basically just online now. I don't have a physical body anymore. And this is a hologram. I'm in Scotland right now. Anyway, use the hashtag RedNed. If you don't know what hashtags are, you're probably a happier person. And you probably know what your children's names are, which is a good thing, I think. So, do tweet about it and share the experience, because the beauty of what we do here, and of course the 21st century, is that we can now share ideas. There are people in the UK watching this, and in the US and in New Zealand, obviously in the middle of the night, watching this, and I think it's a wonderful thing. We are part of an international community of professionals. I hope we can drive that forward here today. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you.